Hi, this is Dave.
This is Tara.
And this is Adam, and you're listening to People Also Watched.
We're three industry insiders clinging onto the lower rungs of the Hollywood ladder, and we love examining movies.
Every month, studios release big-budget features, and for every one of those, there are a ton of lesser-known movies that you just might love.
So, as we cling here to the bottom of this career ladder, we're going to watch big-budget movies, but we're also going to introduce you to an older, nearly forgotten movie that people also watched.
So like and subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. That could be iTunes, that could be Spotify, that could be Amazon Music, that could be...
Dave, we're going to be here a long time if you do them all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
And hey, if you like social media, and some of you most likely do, you should follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We're at People Also Watch. No ED. Mandy, no ED.
Aw, your new wife is so sad now. That's
She
so
is sad.
exciting for her.
If you're following us on those social media platforms, make sure you join in on the conversation. Tell us the big budget movies that are coming up that you're looking forward to, or maybe some lesser known ones that you want us to watch.
All right, so you guys, what better day than today to think about death and the end of the world? Ooh! Oh my God, what a great tie-in to my new book. You guys, I have a new book. It's coming out February 7th.
Oh my goodness!
You have a new book?
I wrote a book. It's my first published book. It's a humor book.
I'm going to have to learn how to read.
Wait.
That's the first hurdle, Adam. You know what, Adam? Actually, you don't. You know why? Because there's pictures.
Ooh, pictures.
Ooh.
It's made for me.
I like pictures.
The book is called Tips for Your Last Year on Earth. So it's handy, too.
Oh,
it's
nice.
illustrated.
So that's why we're doing Last Year on Earth movies.
Yeah, that's right. So we watched 2 end-of-the-world movies because, again, I'm not saying it's our last year on Earth, but I'm also not saying it's our last year on Earth. So you should just, live your best life is what I'm thinking.
Where can you buy these books there, Tara?
Oh, you can buy them on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. In L.A., local bookstore Skylight Books is carrying it. In Palm Springs, local bookstore, the best bookstore in Palm Springs is carrying it. And hopefully, if things go well, it'll be at a bookstore in your city as well.
Ooh, fun. Well, the first movie, White Noise, is a satirical contemplation of modern life, major fears, and denying death in a Netflix original movie starring Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig, and Don Cheadle. Directed by Noah Baumbach. Thank you.
Oh, Baumbach.
Directed by Noah Baumbach, this movie premiered during the death throes of summer on August 31st, 2022, and then premiered on Netflix at Thanksgiving, another time with family where you want to die. So, Dave, what is your logline for this movie?
This is going to be interesting. Okay. I wish I had this fully hatched out.
Perfect.
But it's Adam Driver is a dad who is going through a midlife crisis and a big train accident lets off all these chemicals that go into the sky, creating an evacuation of his small town. And this event sets off a series of events that shows the weaknesses in his marriage, the issues with his families, and his own fear of death. Or, as I like to call it, it's National Lampoon's Evacuation Vacation.
I like that, because they are in a station wagon the whole time. So I like that a lot.
They are.
I mean, Dave,
and it's kind of a zany family comedy.
That was a very long log line. However, I think it's as accurate because the movie is also long and winding.
Yes.
And rambling.
Yeah, clocks in at
I want to say
2 hours and 10 minutes.
Is it? It felt like 3 hours, I have to say.
Yes, it did.
I want to say, interestingly, we didn't know this going at the go, but the 2 movies share a quality, and that's that there are 3 movies within each of these single movies.
Yes.
It's like a movie within a movie within another movie, potentially. There might be more movies in there, but there's a lot of things happening in White Noise.
There really are.
There's so much happening.
It felt like it was very scattershot, and they wanted to hit all of these different ideas at the same time. And it's one of those movies that is pseudo-intellectual in the way that they do all of the dialogue. So it makes me feel 2 things. 1, am I too dumb to know what's going on in this movie?
Right.
And 2, is this purposefully being rambly, kind of like esoteric like this, which I think it was. But when it's for the whole damn movie and not like a single character doing it, because that's one thing. If you got one character being like that pseudo-intellectual idiot and the rest of the world's like, who's this guy? It's fine. Yeah. But when everybody's doing it, I was like, yeah, stop.
I mean, there's like a Don Cheadle like storyline that we never like really get back to.
Yeah.
Like happens all off screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny because the first note I took on this movie was, hooray, Don Cheadle. Like, that was it. That's all I wrote. Because I love Don Cheadle. I'm a big, big fan. But then the next one was, this dialogue, ? And am I too dumb for this movie? And then Andre 3000. So there was a lot of stuff happening for me. Because Andre 3000 plays a university professor in this movie. A role I don't think he or anyone else would have ever, like, pegged him for when Outcast was at their prime. But I thought he was fine. I think he was fine in the movie.
I mean, I don't think that, like, any performances were bad because I feel like the actors all knew whatever path they were on. I just don't know that the audience knew what path anybody should have been on. Because, like, I feel like it's a movie. It's not a movie where you can say nothing happened. You could say it's a movie where a lot of things are happening. I don't know what to make of them, and I don't know what to take away from this movie.
I think that's a really good way of phrasing it, because watching it, the whole time I was like, this is a really good cast.
Yes.
Oh, I kind of enjoy this dialogue. Oh, I think the images, the cinematography is beautiful.
Yes.
I think the director is trying to say something big. Why do I hate this?
Yeah.
Like, the whole time. I'm like, this hits everything that I should like. It's like 80s
period.
Political political satire. Like the old school Catch-22, Kurt Vonnegut, old school sci-fi kind of satire. And yet just landed like a thud of nothing.
Yeah, and then you have like a big, set piece event, right? Where like everybody's trying to not get killed by this poison gas, and then that just like gets solved.
Yeah, like it was. Yes. Well, and here's the thing. I thought initially when I was watching this movie, because I purposely didn't read anything about it, because I was like, this looks interesting and stylized. I'm going to just dive into this. I was like, is this a movie about misinformation? Because that would be a really interesting movie, especially with the times that we're in. And then they had the whole plague thing that was happening with the air and the virus. And I'm like, this is where they're going. And then they threw that all away and just moved on to the next thing. Now there's magical pills that Greta Gerwig is taking because she's afraid of death. And like,
that's the thing. It's like the crux of the plot is that Adam Driver and his daughter are concerned about Babette, played by Greta
Gerwig.
Greta Gerwig, who I always gets mixed up with Grunberg.
You mean Greta Thunberg? The activist?
Greta Thunberg.
The 16-year-old Swedish activist? 17-year-old? Okay.
Yes. Well, it's just they kind of sound the same in my head.
Wow. Dave.
Anyway.
All short white women look the same.
So
Me too,
wrong.
Dave. Me too.
Look, you know how I pronounce names.
I do.
That's
why
it's
fun.
Not pronounce names.
That's why this is fun.
So
that's why this is fun.
By the way I pronounce names, you can see how I get those two names mixed up. Anyway, that the crux of the plot is that she is addicted to these pills. In the air toxic event, which I also wanted to make a movie called Air Toxic Avenger, which would be really fun.
Seems a little light. Seems a little light.
Yeah. And you don't know that. It's like you think this is about the air toxic event and misinformation and government incompetency. And then it just totally, they're like, throw the brakes on the movie, go, nope, that's not what this is about at all.
Yeah.
Cut to 2 weeks later, everything's fine, and we're dealing with the fallout.
You know what the big problem I have with this movie, and I'm just realizing it now? There are no consequences for anything. There's no consequences for anything. Doesn't matter if it's the toxic event. Doesn't matter if it's Greta Gerwig's marital indiscretions. Doesn't matter about people getting shot. Like, there's no
literally
consequences for any of it. And it's just like, so why does any of this matter? Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I feel like I'm going to say that, like, I think I said this maybe on our last podcast. I watched a lot of movies this year because I had to. And this movie suffers from the same symptom as I'm going to say 4 or 5 other movies directed mostly by white guys, which is that, like, there's a lot of rambling. There's a lot of, like, everybody was afraid to give them notes or ask them why with certain things.
Yep.
And that, like, I feel like there was a time, in 2020 or 2021 when these movies were being made where everybody was just so scared we didn't know what to do, that there was just sort of a sense of, like, just let them shoot. We'll figure it out. I'm sure, like, it's not like Noah Baumbach's going to deliver us a stinker, right? And I don't understand. I understand that, like, I feel like in general it's a product of the existential dread that we all felt with some of these movies. Fine, I get that. It's still the point of when you make a movie, everybody who goes to see a movie wants to experience what the directors, the actors, you want to experience something, right?
Sure.
You don't want to go and watch something for 2 to 3 hours and then go, why did I just do that? And I felt like there was a number, and this movie suffered from it, where I'm like, I don't understand first, you have all these you have the best elements to make this soup. You have the best actors.
So
you have
much
a great
money.
director.
Yes.
So much money.
So much money. Beautiful elements. Great cinematography. And, like, what? Like, I'm never gonna, like, go, oh my God. There's nobody I'm gonna say, hey, you should watch White Noise. There's not a single person I could think that I would be like, including this podcast. I just don't understand what we were supposed to. And Adam, I also felt like there's a certain amount of, am I smart enough to understand this? But there was too much of that where it's like, I love some, you need imagery, you need themes, you need elements like that take us through this journey. But it can't be so obscure that regular people are like, what?
Right.
What?
Well, and then...
Go
ahead, Dave.
One thing I want to point out, this is based upon, I want to say, an early 80s book by Don DeLillo, who was a giant author back in the day. And so there may be a lot of things going on where this represents faithfully what's in the book, but doesn't work as a movie.
I guess the other part of it that gets to me is, we all work in this industry, know what timelines are like and how everything is like, go, 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 time is money, money is time. It felt like they just languished in their, mediocrity for multiple points in this movie. They're like, it was just like, yeah, let's just get another shot. Or, that's what it felt like. It felt like, even with, like, the script, and, like, let's put this scene in here, even though we don't need this scene. So we're going to do an extra 2 weeks of shooting for this one scene, even though it has nothing to do with the... you know what I mean? That's what it felt like. It felt like this movie wasn't working, so they just kept adding aspects and elements to it. And I haven't read the book. Perhaps this is very faithful to the book. I'm not 100% sure, and if it is, I take back what I'm saying. But I felt like they were just trying to make... The way they were trying to make soup is they started with nothing, and they just kept putting in crap, hoping eventually it would turn into soup. And it never did.
I forgot that
I do want to say, though, Adam, real quick, that you don't have to be sorry or forgive for criticizing the movie for not working if it's faithful to the book. The movie should work as a movie.
Agreed.
It's funny, I did read an article after I watched this movie, because I did want to go, like, what did I miss? Or, like, I don't, what was the point? And I did read an article where it said this particular book was sort of, like, famously unfilmable. And, like, I guess other filmmakers had tried to do it. And so Noah Baumbach, I think during the pandemic, is like, no. I'll
Challenge accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
There was, like, an article about that. And I was like, well, maybe all the other people said it was sort of unfilmable. I want to say maybe they had something going. I don't know.
I feel like I want to give him some credit that he got very close to something.
Yes.
But in the end, it just wasn't. And I think Adam's right. It just didn't speak to the audience in a way that the audience can get it.
It was when I initially pitched this movie because we wanted to play on the end of the world thing. I think it was, I don't know if it was Dave or Tara had said they started watching this movie and then stopped. And was it you, Dave? And I remember being like, I wonder why he did that. And then I watched the movie and realized nothing happens for the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Yes.
The event, which is this, like, the train explosion.
Airborne toxic.
Doesn't happen until 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, the inciting incident, which is this event that kicks off everything afterwards, isn't until moment 40, like minute 40. Yeah. And really, like... And I hate going back, well, under a traditional Hollywood script, it should happen on page 12.
I was going to say the same thing.
But with this, it should have happened on page 12.
Well, that used to be the standard rule. The standard rule is the inciting incident, what the movie's about, needs to happen in the first, 10 to 15 pages of your script. And now, arguably, Tara and I actually both have worked with the same writing teacher. But now it should happen in, the first 5 to 6 pages, because that's just the pace at which we live at now. That's just the pace at which media is consumed. Get that stuff out now. So the fact that, Noah's like, let's wait until page 35. It's just...
Here's the... I also think, what Dave, your point about, a book doesn't have to stay true to a book. And I think there's a lot of movies that, I don't need to have read a book to get, I should have been able to take away from this movie the feeling that Noah Baumbach wanted us to take away, that he took away.
Yes.
And I don't know what that feeling should be.
Yep.
Sadness and confusion.
I mean, if that's it, well, then I got it. Then I did get it.
And maybe frustration.
Sure.
I was thinking about, we talk about the air toxic event being so late, and I'm like, okay, so what's before it? There's a scene with Don Cheadle and Adam Driver, both of them professors and experts in their field. Adam Driver is an expert at Hitler, which the whole movie I was like, this means something. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Don Cheadle is an expert at Elvis Presley, and they're doing this slam
symposium. Yes.
Symposium slam.
where a debate slam where each one is talking about how their specific interests were influenced by their mother. And it's almost a musical sequence, because the way they move around the classroom, the way everyone's watching them, the way the camera moves and circles them as they're saying these things, and they go back and forth like a tennis match. And it's a fascinating scene, but at the end of the scene, I'm like, why?
See, that's where I was hoping it was going to be a movie about misinformation, and it was going to be a true comedy. Because during that speech, they could have been like, Elvis had 17 toes, or whatever.
Yes.
They could have really, heightened and
that's true.
Upped that game, It was like, Hitler only spoke backwards on Wednesdays. And it's just, and they're both professors, and everybody's enwrapped and in their speeches, and they've spent so much time and money on the set dressing and the costuming that it really gives an air of authenticity to what's happening. Yeah. So great, then double down on the craziness that's coming out of their mouths, and everybody agrees to it. But again, this is all the misinformation thought that I had, and that just went sideways.
Well, what goes on is the director is leading you to a conclusion and then swapping it out for something else. And I think in this movie, it's just ineffective, because you're like, but what are you swapping it out for? It's just, I don't know if any of the decisions clearly made a point. There's another scene where Don Cheadle and Adam Driver are walking through a grocery store. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the movie, you realize the grocery store is this iconic place and probably represents America in some way.
Which by the way, they built that. I know. I thought about that the first time they went in there, and I'm like, wow, they built this whole grocery store. I wonder why they did that. And then I was like, okay, well.
But not enough of the movie took place there for it to be justified.
So expensive. That was such an expensive build.
And it wasn't, each scene should have hinted at people's love of the grocery store in some way. I mean, they hint, I feel like maybe they hint, you could argue that they hint at things, but it's never an overriding point.
Yeah, no, they need to double down on the fact that it's overly commercialized or, capitalism.
Yes.
And they mention that briefly, but it's not the focus of the film, so it's, kind of all over the place.
But the one thing was Don Cheadle and Adam Driver are walking along. Adam Driver has a cart full of name recognizable brands like Jiffy,
Yes.
Pringles,
Yeah.
whatever. And Don Cheadle is carrying a basket of generic brand, which is all white packaging. And I've been trying to figure out why in the end of the movie, there's a dance sequence during the credits where everyone's dancing in the aisles of this grocery store.
Yes.
And there's one point where all the professors are dancing in the generic aisle, which has all the food in one aisle because it's all generic brand. You don't need a ton of brand name. Like, you don't need a ton of it. Like, you just need a row of soup and a row of potato chips and a row of cereal. And that's all they have. Whereas the rest of the store has like a row of different branded peanut butter. And I'm trying to figure out, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I couldn't get anything.
I don't know. Well, this movie didn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but hopefully when we come back to from commercial, we'll talk about a movie that makes a ton of sense, Night of the Comet.
Yes. And can I just say, this is based on a book. Are they doing a movie based on your book, Tara?
TBD.
Hey, thanks for coming back. Now here's a movie that people also watched. This 80s classic is also about people's last days of life on the planet. It's Night of the Comet. From 1984, it stars Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelli Maroney and is directed by Thom Eberhardt, who also wrote and directed Captain Ron. Night of the Comet cost a mere $700,000 and made over $14 million. Why hasn't there been a TV show about this last night on Earth?
All right, Dave, you're riding the logline train. What have you got for us?
Hopefully this was a little shorter than for White Noise. Okay. 2 girls survive the destruction. Wait, no. Because it sounds like the comet hits the Earth. Okay, no, hold on. This is better. This can all stay in. 2 girls survive a night after a comet passes through the atmosphere, killing almost everyone. And if you weren't killed, you were turned into a zombie. Now hijinks ensue.
I actually think that's a great logline for this movie.
Yeah, I think it's solid.
Right?
That's solid.
I mean, it captures the comedy of it and the zombie of it.
I want to say right off the bat, I'm surprised I'd never heard of this movie before.
Really?
I've never heard of it, and I thought there were some elements I really laughed at and enjoyed. That's all I'm going to say for right now.
I'm going to start by saying I thought the women in this movie were great. And
they were awesome.
Yes.
All the men
were so good.
Terrible. Like, every single one of them was so god-awful. Like, there's...
Do you mean from an acting perspective or from a character perspective?
Both.
Well,
Yeah.
So the first guy you meet is Catherine Mary Stewart's boyfriend, who's like 50 years old, who's supposed to be her age and working in like a movie projector room, and he's a douche nozzle. Then you meet I'm doing air quotes you can't see, the last man on Earth, whose name was Hector, who I swear to God, you meet him, he points a gun at the girls. The girls are like, "Don't shoot us, we're human, not cannibals." And he's like, "Okay." And then he spends the next 3 minutes posing dramatically in a rear-lit door frame and doing like bad exposition. And he's like a generic brand Eric Estrada. And it's just really. Do you guys notice that, by the way? Like, I kind of felt like Kelli Maroney, who plays the younger sister, was kind of like a generic Michelle Williams.
I literally have that in my notes. I was like, this girl is like early Michelle Williams incarnate. There was like, I also thought the lead girl, I forget, what was her name? Catherine something, whatever.
Catherine Mary Stewart.
I literally was like, how is this girl not in every movie? I thought she was so fun and compelling. And also, she was 80s hot. Like, that was like her. I was like, if you drew an 80s hot girl, it's literally her top to bottom.
Yep, yeah.
Yes.
And she was solid. Like, as an actress.
She was great.
She was solid. It was, she did not have a lot to work with.
No, she was like, her character's the daughter of an army general, and she can take care of herself, like with guns and karate, self-defense, and 100% believable. Like,
I
not
bought
once was I like, oh, this woman's never touched a gun before. She seemed to know her way around.
The only
She
thing
jumps on a motorcycle and rides it.
The only thing I didn't buy was that she's ever played a video game before in her life. Because I don't know if you guys saw that at the top. So at the top, she's playing like an old school, like, like Galaga style video game.
Yeah.
And the look on her face is just, I don't even know how you describe that look. It's not an intensity that is derived from playing video games, I'll tell you that.
I also, like, one of the notes I wrote down is, so in the beginning we see her, first of all, my first note is socks with heels. The comet must have already hit. It's like the first thing we see of her is a shot of her feet, and she's wearing socks with heels. And I was like, oh, this has already gone bad for the world. But remember, so she's like playing this video game, and then she gets to the end, and she like goes, and somebody has erased one of her top scores. Guys, do you remember like the rage, like when if you got on it, and then somebody erases it? Like, that's real.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
real.
oh,
Yeah.
Kids will
That's
never know.
throwdown time.
My favorite part about this movie is
that was old school Twitter beef.
OG Twitter beef. You erased my score.
There were multiple moments in this movie, and one of the reasons I enjoyed it so much was it took left turns that I just did not see coming. Like, for instance, there's early on in the movie, the Kelli Maroney, the younger sister character, is fighting with the stepmother, and they're like, and you know exactly what I'm about to say, right? They're like,
I'm so glad you brought this up.
and she's like, I'm going, my sister's not coming home tonight. You're like, you tell your sister to come home tonight. She's like, you can't tell me what to do, bitch. At which point, the stepmother, named Doris, slaps her. And Kelli Maroney Kelli Maroney says no, and she slaps her back. And that's when you think it's over. And then, nope, because the stepmother just winds up and cold cocks her and sends her rolling back into the wall. And you're like, ooh!
Almost in the middle of a party, right? There's other people around.
It was a party that her mom was throwing. The lady who punches her daughter, as with a room full of her friends, she punches her daughter, and everybody's like, let's go drink. And it's like, what is happening? Oh.
I love that.
It was amazing. I loved it.
I love how 80s that is. I just like how 80s the whole movie is.
Yep.
Because everything about it is somewhere between a nuclear war disaster and an MTV girls just want to have a fun music video.
Right?
And you would not think those two things go together at all, but somehow this magical concoction works for this movie.
It reminded me, too, I forgot all about this, but when I was little, I remember you guys, and you guys might remember this. I don't know if you will, Adam. What a big deal Halley's Comet was. Like, remember,
Yes.
Dave, I know you did. Adam, do you have any recollection of Halley's Comet and this big
I do
deal that it
remember
was?
Halley's Comet. I think I was in my nursery at the time and playing with my mobile.
Sure, so you don't.
And
Well, I have vague recollections
Is that what you call
of
it?
You're his nursery. You mean your crib?
Yep.
Whatever.
No, I had my own nursery. I was a big deal.
How dare you? I just remember, when I was this is one of my formative, baby childhood memories, is what a big deal that, and, there was watch part. I mean, the news talked about it endlessly, this Halley's Comet, you're going to be able to see it from your living room, da-da-da-da-da. So I was like, oh, that's what fed a movie like this, is what if it went wrong? There was also a reference in this movie to the Sandinistas, and I was like, man, this movie is stuck in a time. Let's remember that.
I just loved all the shots of abandoned Los Angeles. You know what I mean?
Oh, so good.
So first of all, this movie only cost $700,000 to make, and yet they shot outside the El Rey Theater.
By the way,
Right?
I didn't know that that's what that movie. I was like, they spent some real money on this movie, but I will say the only things are all those desolate LA shots you could easily get on a Sunday morning, and you and that mall must have been some old school mall that they just. Although I think they built that set, so that was I don't know how they did this for $700,000, other than they paid all those actors no dollars.
Yeah, exactly, $0. And they made $14 million, which in 1983 was basically what they made off of Black Panther. That's some serious coin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's insane to me that, people still reference, I mean, this is a cult classic. And it's crazy to me that no one has brought it back, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone has redone it or made an HBO dramatic recreation of it, or maybe there's a 2-minute TikTok version. I don't know.
I feel like it's
But
totally
I feel like
they should. This is a movie that's worthy of remake.
Yeah, even if they do like a Black Dynamite style parody remake, like of I would really enjoy that. If like, you know, because I don't know if you guys haven't seen Black Dynamite at home, go home and see the Black Dynamite. But it's basically a blaxploitation movie made in the late 2000s, and they're like making purposefully a bad blaxploitation film, and it's just brilliant from top to bottom. So I think that's what they should do. They should make Night of the Living Comet 2. Where they show generic Eric Estrada's adopted children with Catherine Mary Stewart, you know, and they're experiencing another comet, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the plot is.
There was just so many beautiful points. A is like, so the idea is that the comet goes over the Earth and that whatever radiation the comet has emitted has killed everybody and turned them into dust.
Into dust, yep.
And then again, if they weren't turned into dust, they are now cannibalistic zombies.
Right.
Which
Can
I was
just
like,
jump in?
This is perfect.
I want to jump in for a quick sec, Tara, because when Catherine comes out of the movie theater, because she was in like a steel room, so she
was in a lead room.
Lead room, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So she came outside the movie theater, and there are like dozens of bodies, although they're not bodies, they're just dust, like laying around the streets because people were outside when this happened. She sees a pile of clothes, and she bends down, and she picks up the underwear.
Yep.
And I remember being like, of all the articles of clothing you could have picked up, you went for the bright red underwear? Like, who does that? The 80s were weird.
I also thought when she walked out of the movie theater, she there's never a point where she looks around and goes, "Where is everybody?"
Not one
it takes
point.
a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
For them to realize no one is around.
Yep.
Also, my favorite justification for her sister doesn't die either. So the girl, she goes home again, not realizing something's wrong, but not really doing a lot of investigation into what could be wrong. She goes home and she's like, the sister like pops out and she's there. And she explains it like, you know, got in a fight with mom. I'm like, you mean your mom abused you and you could call the police? And so the sister's justification is that she slept in the lawn shed. I'm like, you did what? Like, you slept in the shed?
Well, like, in Reno, did you ever get in a fight with mom and dad?
How dare you?
They didn't have lawn
like,
sheds in Reno. What are you talking about? I'll say that
that's true.
That blonde
in the lawn lean-to.
Yeah. That blonde was actually one of my favorite characters in the movie, just because of how inane she was. Like, they're going through the end of the world, and she's just like, "Oh my God, do you think this new guy is cute?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's the end of the world."
Oh,
She's
but
like,
yeah, that's where this movie like lost me a little bit. It was just like there's real world consequences. Like they have like, you know, they're realizing they could be like some of the last people on Earth, and they're just like, I'm gonna get them. No, I'm like, why are we still talking about boys? People are dust. People have turned into. How are you gonna eat? What are you gonna do?
I keep because in a way, the lead villain is female. The two leads are female.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, like, can this pass the Bechdel test?
Bechdel test?
Bechdel?
No,
Bechdel.
it can't. No, because even when her
Bechdel.
sister, even when they're
No, it can't. That's exactly right, and it's so shocking because, in a way, this is a movie all about women surviving the end of the world, and it still can't do that because they throw all this 90s bullshit or 80s kind of like, well, women can't have a world where men aren't around.
Yeah, what are they going to
bullshit
do?
into it.
Let's make sure we get the
Even
blonde
though
to dance
all the
around
men
in her
are
lingerie.
useless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just found it so interesting in that the conflict between those two thoughts. I'm in a very kind of like intellectual mood. I think white noise threw me into over-examining movies because this was just fun.
Yeah. So, but there's some so we have this particular movie we've all just talked about going on, and then all of a sudden, I'm gonna say like an hour in. I didn't look at what time it was. We cut to this whole other plot line where there's these government people who are supposedly at like I'm guessing like an Area 51, and they've all survived because they're underground, and they're like, should we save these teenagers we can hear at the radio station? It's like, wait, what's going on?
Yes.
It's just whole another movie in a movie.
Well, again, it's I rate a movie like this by the number of times it can throw a curveball at me that I didn't see coming. And that was one of those moments, because here's the situation. They have the scientists in the underground bunker, and they're like, we should go save these kids. At which point, like, the only female scientist there is like, no, we shouldn't go save the kids. And you're thinking like they want isolationism. But it turns out that the whole reason they didn't want to go save the kid, the woman didn't want them to go save the kids, is because the rest of the scientists want to use their blood to keep themselves alive because they got infected by the comet or whatever. And then the woman ends up being a good, a hero, and she tricks everybody into thinking she kills the blonde with like an injection, which, by the way, blonde has the best dying line I've ever heard in a movie. Her final line in this movie, she goes, "You're a genius, huh? There are a couple of geniuses at my high school. They're real wimps." Yeah. That's it, and then she dies. Like, that was her final line.
It was phenomenal. I wrote that line down, too. God, it was so good.
Oh, my God. But so, yeah, again, curveballs. Curveballs didn't see coming.
And then, by the way, so we know that we have all these plot lines going, and so then the sisters are like, let's go to the mall and like get free shit. Okay, so you're like, okay, again,
do a fashion montage.
Yeah, like, aren't you concerned? Like, is the power gonna go out? Again, where's the food gonna come from? What do we? No, they're like, let's go do an MTV music video, and so that's what they do. Yeah. And then at this music video at the fucking mall, there's these dudes that have like taken over the mall.
They were stock boys who have risen in the ranks to own the mall.
Oh my God! And I was like, I think I wrote down, I was like, oh, this guy's a creepy young Adam Carolla.
his what's it called? He had a monogrammed smoking jacket on.
Yes!
It said Willie. Can we talk about the guns Can we talk about the guns they got for a second? Like,
oh yeah, that too.
So generic Eric Estrada shows up with like a small caliber, like 38 6-shot handgun, and the main Catherine, the main actress, was like, we're gonna need something with more stopping power. At which point they just show up with fully automatic pistols. Like, with extended clips. Like, and they're just like, yeah, we'll use these. I'm like, where did you get those? Who has those?
I wrote down, where did they get their weapons? Yeah. I was like, did I black out for 5 minutes and miss a scene? Did I just start wandering Twitter to look at what...
There was a scene...
I'm so glad to know.
Yeah, there was a scene where Catherine said to... generic Eric Estrada that, like, hey, do you know about this military base? Because they probably have weapons there. And that was it, though. Like, they didn't say we're going to go to that base. And the guns they came back with are not military issue in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, didn't get that at all.
They were ready to join the Wolverines and fight off the Russians in Colorado with those weapons.
I also want to say my favorite, another, like, okay, so obviously the clear overriding factor that we knew in the 80s is that women's number one concern, even at the end of the world, was who's going to get the guy. Okay, fine.
Of course.
So that's all they could think about. That's literally even the female scientist was like concerned about, like, okay, am I hot still though? Like, everybody. Okay,
only natural.
But
her last line was, "You're right, he is cute."
He is cute, exactly. I was like, oh God. So we're thinking, like, this movie thought they were so progressive because it's mostly female leads, and like a woman got to be a female scientist. But my favorite part is, okay, so then we've talked about him. The other guy his name is Hector. He's Latino. I thought it was Eric Estrada, by the way, like, for a very long time. I was like, oh shit, this is like his first, and then I was like, oh no, but I know. Anyways, the best part is towards the end of the movie. He comes back and he's like wearing a cowboy. Anyways, his character's name is Hector Goldman. Like, they can't even let him be full Latino. Like, they cannot. They were like, we're gonna go as far as we can, but he's still gonna be Jewish.
I don't know.
Like,
They went to his house, and he was playing Feliz Navidad on the record player.
That's right, and he lived in San Diego.
Right, and she made a comment about that gun might be good for a barrio date, and I was like, whoa, dial it down, Catherine.
No need to do that.
I just was like, this movie.
My favorite Hector moment was when he goes back to his house to get stuff,
Oh.
and he grabs a pillowcase, and the first thing he grabs to put into the pillowcase, in theory, to take with him for the rest of his life, was a high school trophy.
Yep.
And it wasn't even
it was like a 8-inch baseball something trophy.
Participation.
That like you could get it at Target.
Yeah, participation trophy. Like you were on the baseball team trophy.
Yeah, it should have been like a Heisman trophy or what's the cup that hockey game?
Stanley Cup.
You know.
I mean, it's interesting
Stanley
that
Cup.
you point that out, Dave, because. Sure, and it seemed that he only had a few seconds to put stuff in it because then like a zombie kid comes. But here's what I will say: at the end of this movie, somehow, and I'm gonna guess that was in the living room and he threw it in his bag. Somehow he finds dynamite and he puts it under this car.
Oh, that's right.
He has dynamite, and I'm like, where the fuck did this guy get dynamite?
Look,
and I was
everybody
like,
knows every Mexican Jewish family in San Diego has a supply of dynamite. That is just where you get dynamite from on the West Coast.
By that point, I was not asking the movie any questions at all because I saw that I was like, yeah, this makes sense. He has dynamite.
Yeah, I literally that was the one where I was like, wait, he had a lot of it too. And I was like,
yes, he did.
And you had enough time to rig it to the gas pedal?
No,
okay.
But again, this goes back to those curveballs I was talking about because Hector rolls back up and he goes to the guard at the gate and he's like, hey, you like girls? And I'm like, what is about to happen? At which point, he pops the trunk. The trunk, and the blonde Kelli is laying there, like, looking dead. And the guard's response is, oh, but she's dead. Like he expected Hector to open up the trunk and there to be, like, live girls in there, like, ready to party or something. I don't know. And
I was like, that was the most trusting security naval army officer. Everybody's like, I mean, I'll take it a look. This guy seems cool.
There's only one security guy for the whole Area 51, which, they should up their budget for that.
Well, I think everybody was dust, Adam, and that guy was he drew the short straw.
No.
Yeah.
Fair.
They cut that scene out too. Well, should we rate this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think so.
I'm just looking at my notes and it's this one line. I'm not crazy. I just don't give a fuck.
That's right.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, so we have a 3-tiered rating system. People must also watch. This is something, if you like a good end-of-the-world movie, you got to see this. People could also watch. This is a fun watch, maybe not for everyone. And people don't also watch. This is a hard pass. I'd rather experience the end of the world than watch this movie. I think I'm going to give this an enthusiastic people could also watch because I think it's a really fun movie, but it is a little 80s slow. Like in terms of movie making, like what we were talking about with White Noise, where like get that incident up on page 5. This one, it just the scenes are a little longer. It's a little slower. It's therefore maybe a little harder to watch, but if you stick with it, it is kind of golden moments.
I'll go. I'm gonna deviate. I'm gonna say the first hour of this movie, people must also watch. The second hour of this movie, people don't also watch. Because this movie to me, when like 45 minutes in, I'm like, how is this not the biggest movie I've ever... Like, this movie is everything you want. It's hilarious. It's like on point. It was very Velocipaster in its like focus. I was like, but then when it starts taking the turns, it loses, and the turns are not that satisfying.
Right.
And I feel like, and then we get into the real misogynistic stuff with the women and like, Hector Goldman. And I was like, okay. But I really wish they had finished the movie they started in the first hour. So that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. You know what, Tara? I think that's an excellent, because I was really struggling because I want to give this people must also watch.
Yeah.
But there were just too many moments of, ugh. So I'm also gonna give people could also watch. I do think this would be a lot of fun if you know what you're getting into. Like if you want to get a bunch of people to sit around, play a drinking game, or you know what this movie is? You're at a cool bar and it's on in the background.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is. It's one of those like trendy LA bars where you pay $13 for a PBR and you turn around and Night of the Comet is on the TV. Like that's what this movie is. That's what this movie is.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a check-in movie.
Yep.
You watch for the scene you love, then you drift out for a while, then you go back to it for another scene.
Right, it's totally a movie where you're like, oh, here comes the scene where Eric Estrada poses in the doorway and takes 80 minutes to take his gloves off.
It would be like a perfect Mystery Science Theater 3000 type movie too, because there's a lot of silence to fill.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
And it's watchable unto itself. So yeah.
Are we gonna do? We should do. What are we watching right now?
Oh yeah, we gotta do that.
Okay.
We gotta do
well,
that.
I want to start because I just started watching. This is a big claim. I just started potentially watching what I think is one of the best television shows that will ever be made.
Ooh.
It is
if it's the same one as I'm thinking.
It's called Kunk on Earth.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
What? Wait, what is this? I don't know about this.
Okay, it's on Netflix. It just came out. Okay, so there's this British comedian, and her name is Diane Morgan, and I only was made aware of her because I watched Afterlife, which was Ricky Gervais's show on Netflix.
Who does she play in Afterlife?
Which is beautiful. That show is fantastic. But she is in the office with him, and she is like you can't stop watching her. She's insane. She is so funny, and and you're like, I love everything about this girl. So this show stars, so it's like a planet, like Planet Earth and all these like discovery shows that go around the world and they show you these vistas and they describe things. So it's a take on that, except she plays this woman, and her name is Philomena Kunk, C-U-N-K. And so it's a little bit like Ollie G show, but I think done so much. Every line is hysterical. It is insane.
And her delivery is so committed, and she tosses off these lines as if like, no, this is 1000% true. And it is incredible, and you're absolutely right. You can't help but watch her.
She's so funny.
And she never plays it for humor. Not
once.
Just
I mean, like she is I can't think of even Sacha Baron Cohen. She is so real in this character. I don't think I've ever seen this character smile, let alone break character. Like she is so. Right now, this show has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
As it should.
All right.
Yeah,
it is.
And it is like a evolution of Monty Python humor and Sacha Baron Cohen, but also brand new in its kind of intensity and comedy.
That's high praise.
It is. Yeah.
I'm so glad you started watching it, Dave, because I wasn't feeling so good on Friday, and I was like, oh, I know that girl, and I was like, and I was like, oh my, what am I like? This is brilliant.
I did the same thing Friday night. I was like, what should I watch? I want something funny. I was like, maybe I'll watch the trailer for Kunk. And halfway through the trailer, I was like, let's watch this. Stop the trailer. Watching this.
Every line is a Giphy. Every line is a meme. Like I want to like feed you guys lines right now, but I don't because I want you to experience them for the first time. Like
yes, yeah,
I will experience
absolutely.
them, and then I will call you and we will talk about this.
Okay.
Dave?
Kunk was going to be mine.
Well, that's fine.
I was going to say Kunk.
We could double
Kunk.
Kunk.
I don't know what to
I think
say.
we could double Kunk.
Oh, we could double Kunk?
You guys double Kunk it?
That's okay. Yeah.
Double Kunk.
Well, Kunk it.
We'll Kunk it. Okay.
We're like a tasty gum.
All right, that
Double
leaves
Kunk
me.
joy.
That's a lot of pressure for me. So I'm gonna go with. I just saw the Banshees of Inisherin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
Which, for the most part, I really, really enjoyed. I was upset because my dog was in the hospital at the same time that the donkey scene happened, so I had to stop watching the movie for a little bit.
Yes.
But don't worry, my dog's okay. The donkey is not. But the movie in general, I thought was exceptional in how engaging that movie is, because very little happens in it. Very little. The whole plot is Colin Farrell and what's his name? Brendan Gleeson, thank you, are best friends. And then one day, Brendan Gleeson's like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. That's it. That's the movie. And
it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's so good, and it's so engaging, and it's so darkly funny sometimes. Like, there's a moment where Colin Farrell is not allowed to talk to Brendan Gleeson, and Brendan Gleeson starts making new friends. And this guy came to be friends with Brendan Gleeson, so Colin Farrell's like, "Oh, you gotta leave, man. We just got word that your mom's or your dad's dead." And he's like, "How'd he die?" He's like, he was hit by a milk truck." "Oh no, not again! My mom was killed by a milk truck." I was just like, oh, but no. I thought it was exceptional. I thought it was an exceptional movie, and I thought it was really well performed and really interesting. And yep.
And oddly, in contrast with White Noise, where a lot seemed to happen, but you get nothing out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I also just want to point out, Tara's book is out.
Thank you.
Tips for Your Last Year on Earth.
That's right.
I haven't read it yet, but I will. I promise.
I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, it's pre-order right now, baby. Yeah. Pre-order, baby.
Again,
there's pictures. There's pictures.
There's pictures.
Dave's like, I tried to say that with a straight face, and I just couldn't do it. I tried to say it with a straight face. Right. Tara is also doing a book signing, which I'm very excited to go to.
Yeah, I have a book signing at Lincoln Beer Company, March 12th from 2 to 4. It's in Burbank, California. We'll have books for sale if you didn't buy one, or you could bring it. It's going to be filled with beer and jokes, is my guess.
Jokey beer.
That's awesome. I'm having a book signing at Barnes & Noble. It's just whatever book you buy, I'll sign it.
Perfect.
I'm just going to be sitting outside the Barnes & Noble at a table with a Sharpie.
Jokey beer.
That's awesome. I'm having a book signing at Barnes & Noble. It's just whatever book you buy, I'll sign it.
Perfect.
I'm just going to be sitting outside the Barnes & Noble at a table with a Sharpie.